In an effort to win over her high school crush, a teenager teams up with a popular classmate, which results in a case of mistaken identity and an unexpected romance. The audience is introduced to a pair of pale and chubby legs that step out of the shower and stand in front of the mirror in a pleasantly lit bathroom. The silhouette of a young girl fidgets as she observes her complexion, turning from side to side and quietly running her hands over her freckles and short brunette hair. She stares into her eyes in the mirror and gives herself a small pep talk, proclaiming herself a magnificent beast. She smiles and proceeds to brush her teeth. This is Sierra Burgess, a young and content girl celebrating the acceptance of her body. Sierra, now dressed for school, joins her parents for breakfast. Her father enlightens her with an anecdote from Dickens, as her mother inquires if she slept well the previous night. Sierra brushes off her mom's hand, who progresses to rub toothpaste off her face, insisting that obsessing over her looks is not on Sierra's agenda. Her mother, an accomplished writer, presents her mantra for her upcoming conference to Sierra, the meaning behind the acronym LOVE. Sierra presents the same mantra to her best friend Dan in school, with a touch of sarcasm. Finally, the two discuss the questionable parenting techniques adopted by their families, when in the corridor, a kid drops his books on the floor. Three girls taking a stroll are startled by the incident, and one yells at the poor kid to get it together. Sierra pays no attention to her friend, who extends his dislike for the mean girl. Instead, she is staring keenly at a flyer pinned on the notice board. She has just put up a tutoring flyer in the hope that this activity would help elevate her resume for college. As the duo walks away chatting, the three girls walk up to the notice board. Veronica, who initially yelled at the poor student, tears off Sierra's poster, making her air of arrogance completely evident. The three snicker as she crumples up the flyer in her hand. In her English class, Sierra listens attentively as her teacher assigns the students an assignment to write their own poetry. They are supposed to present it in front of the class, which would be counted as 10% of their final grade. Sierra is no stranger to bullying and pays no heed to a girl verbally abusing her at the back. The teacher overhears the comment and takes control by calling out the students involved in the bullying. Meanwhile, the bell tolls and Sierra packs up her bag. She stays back to thank the teacher for having her back, but tells her she does not need anyone to fight her battles for her. Her teacher already knows but does it just for fun. Sierra is her star student, and is certain that her poetry will outshine all the other poems in class. Sierra inquires if she could do something else for 10% of the grade, like a video instead of poetry. Upon being inquired about the reasons behind her request, Sierra brushes it off, giving an answer and thanks the teacher for her time. In the school bathroom, Sierra is washing her hands, minding her own business, when she is suddenly brushed aside by Veronica from the corridor, who calls her Frodo as an insult. Sierra quietly gave her room. As she pauses to dry her hands, she turns around and explains to the girl the incorrect context in which she called Sierra Frodo. Veronica is astonished at the composed literature lesson she is getting, and proceeds to insult Sierra further. Sierra remains calm and smiles at her, telling her she understands what the girl means. She walks away, leaving Veronica speechless. In the corridor, Sierra walks, unfazed by the constant bullying she is subjected to. This seems to be a norm for her, and it is quite entertaining to watch how boldly she goes about her way. In biology class, she observes Veronica quietly during the lecture. Veronica stares coldly back at her, still dealing with her bruised ego from their conversation in the bathroom. Sierra is distracted by her friend, who seems to be doing everything but listening to the lecture. He is interested in generating income from social media, and brushes off Sierra's advice to cash in his straight A's instead. Sierra rolls her eyes and shifts her attention back to the lecture. The scene shifts to Sierra visiting the student counselor's office. She is confident about her prospects, and aims to get admission to Stanford. The counselor is not impressed when she claims that she has gotten almost perfect scores on her SATs. She inquires if Sierra has been involved in any social media movement that inspired social change. Sierra tells her no but talks about her tutoring activity. The counselor continues to scribble notes on the form. Sierra leans in, curious to read the text when she is asked about what she is, apart from a legacy. Sierra is confused. The counselor elaborates, asking her what she would add if anyone were to ask. Sierra Burgess is a. Sierra is rendered speechless. She has a confused look on her face, and it is evident that she has never thought about this element of her resume before. The counselor informs her that she is a good student, but there is nothing special in her CV, except for a famous father. She suggests Sierra co-author a book. Sierra stares at her counselor wide-eyed. Meanwhile, Veronica and her two friends are hanging out at a cafe, when she catches sight of a boy trying to catch her attention. She tells her friends to stay cool, and pretend to have a conversation when he walks over to their table. Jamie comes off as extremely nervous, saying hi to the group multiple times. He introduces himself shyly, and Veronica arrogantly assumes he wants her number. Jamie is surprised and agrees. Veronica turns around and locates the strips of paper attached to her bag, with different numbers of each of them. She picks one and narrates it to Jamie, who happily writes it down. Her friend realizes that's not her number, but are silenced as she kicks them from under the table, giving them the signal to stay quiet. This is her chance to get back at Sierra for bruising her ego in their encounter in the school bathroom. As Jamie walks away, thrilled by the successful encounter, Veronica and her friends enjoy a laugh. She tells them that the number belongs to Sierra Burgess and happily accepts compliments for her outrageous act. She waves back at Jamie, who seems to be celebrating with not-so-good-looking friends, and claims that only losers hang out with losers. Later that day, Sierra is dozing off in front of her laptop when she is alerted by the notification on her cell phone. She walks over to her desk to check, and is surprised to see a text from an unknown number. It reads, "Hi." Sierra is confused. She texts back, asking who it is, and receives a selfie from Jamie, making a dorky face. Surprised, Sierra wondered whether this was a test. Back in school the next day, Sierra smiles distractedly during band practice. Her friend tells her to snap out of it, and Sierra informs him that she has met a guy via text. The two texted all night, but Sierra is skeptical whether Jamie knows who he is texting, or is mistaking her for someone else. Her friend doesn't buy it, telling her of the many negative possibilities of the guy texting her by mistake. Sierra does not budge, justifying her situation by pointing out the lack of laws in the usage of technology. She fishes her cell phone out of her pocket, asking for advice on a good reply. Her friend tells her to change her voicemail for safety. He is still not convinced about the legitimacy of the guy Sierra is texting, despite having been shown his selfie. Later that day, Sierra contemplates changing her voicemail. Her original voicemail includes her name, and Sierra is skeptical if she should remove it or not. She proceeds to re-record her voicemail, replacing her name with her cell number instead. It doesn't sound right, no matter how many times Sierra records it. She gives up in the end, tossing her cell phone on the bed when a notification grabs her attention. It is a text from Jamie. She smiles and texts him back, forgetting her voicemail crisis. As the two texts, the chemistry between them continues to build. There is an evident connection forming between Jamie and Sierra, which Sierra realizes along with the reality that he still thinks she is someone else. She stares at her reflection in her window and does not respond to Jamie's latest text. Back in school the next day, Jamie fills his two friends in with details of his latest conversation with Veronica the previous night. Simultaneously, Sierra does the same, causing feigned outrage in her friend, who continues to tell her that she is not taking this situation seriously. On the other hand, Jamie gushes on about the many qualities his presumed version of Veronica possesses, including being smart and funny. His friends urge him to progress things forward by texting a shirtless photo to Veronica. Jamie obliges, trying to take a good picture back at home while being a nervous wreck. At the other end, Sierra struggles to focus on her studies, constantly checking her cell phone for a text from Jamie. As her cell phone buzzes, she immediately grabs it and opens the chat to see the picture sent by Jamie. Sierra is speechless. She knows her secret can't stay in the dark for long. As Sierra thinks about how to respond, Jamie's anxiety mounts. The two erase potential texts, not knowing how to respond to the sensitive situation. Jamie holds his head in his hands, regretting his decision, when a notification makes him frantically focus on his cell phone screen. Sierra has sent a picture of an elephant for humor. Jamie laughs with relief, having avoided a potentially awkward incident. The next day, Sierra and Dan are cutting images out of magazines, when Sierra catches sight of a model photographed in a glamorous outfit. She picks up the picture and quietly studies it, before inquiring Dan if this is what guys really want. Sierra has never had to think about the physical appeal that women usually have, and knows that she does not fit into that stereotype very well. A text from Jamie distracts her, instantly putting a smile on her face. Dan notices she is caught off guard, and he pounces to see who she is texting. The two scramble around the room when he catches sight of her poetry assignment on her desk. She slams the notebook shut, distracted from her grasp on her cell phone. Dan takes the chance to snatch the phone from her, and quickly goes through her conversation with Jamie. As the two struggle for the cell phone, Jamie texts again, saying he has something to admit. Dan reads the message, curious. Sierra pauses too, wondering if this is how her secret is revealed. The two sit on the bed as Jamie continues to text, despite the distractions from his little brother. With a mistype, he sends a text, and Sierra realizes that he thinks he is texting Veronica. That is the standard that she must live up to. Sierra feels vulnerable, shocked, and disappointed but snaps out of it quickly, as Dan progresses to respond to Jamie, determined to tell him the truth. She yells at Dan to stop, finally snatching her cell phone away and shaking her head. Dan apologizes to her, realizing that he pushed things too far. The next day in biology class, Sierra contemplates her strategy. Theoretically, she might be able to make this work, till the big game is coming up in school. It is in 2 weeks, and she obviously cannot have Jamie go up to Veronica till then. Dan raises his eyebrows at her words, and she admits that this is not her smartest choice. But Jamie reads her words, not Veronica's. He is falling for Sierra's personality, despite imagining Veronica when the two text. She looks in the distance to see Veronica crying over a breakup, being comforted by her two friends. The duo watches as Veronica storms out of class after being told off by the teacher. Sierra has a crazy idea just then and asks to be excused from class. Sierra finds Veronica upset in the corner of the school hallway. She briskly walks up to her and discusses a potential deal. Veronica's boyfriend broke up with her because she is not smart enough, and Sierra likes a guy who does not know that he is texting her. Sierra confronts Veronica about passing her number to strangers. She offers to tutor Veronica to seem smarter, and in exchange, Veronica would help her progress in her relationship with Jamie. Veronica scoffs at the plan. She is extremely popular at school and has a snobbish attitude to go with it. Her arrogance does not allow her to agree to Sierra's plan, and she spits out hurtful comments, none of which seem to touch Sierra's nerves. Sierra tells her to text her the address so they may meet to start working on their partnership. Veronica stares in disbelief as she watches Sierra walk away. Sure enough, Sierra receives the address to Veronica's house. Upon entering, Sierra is blown away by Veronica's lavish and high-standard lifestyle. The two head upstairs to Veronica's room, where Veronica bluntly asks Sierra to get on with her tutoring. She is embarrassed and warns Sierra not to tell anyone about their arrangement. Sierra tells her she wasn't planning on it. Meanwhile, Veronica's mother walks in, demanding to know why Veronica skipped cheerleading practice. She comes off as narrow-minded, counseling Veronica that skipping practice to study would not get her very far with the boys. At the same time, Veronica's two little sisters run into her room, wreaking havoc all over. They climb up on Veronica's bed, yelling and jumping up and down. Sierra is quietly observing the curious events unfold, with a hint of pity for Veronica's lifestyle, which she was quite impressed by just a few minutes ago. Veronica slams the door once her siblings and mother exit, and the two get back to work. Back home, Sierra runs into her dad, who is working on a new book. He inquires about her poetry assignment, which reminds Sierra of the mess she is in with Jamie. In class, Sierra looks at the first selfie Jamie sent, as a student narrates her poetry to the entire class. Sierra now has competition. She is inspired, and pays another visit to the student counselor's office after her class. She needs help with identifying her unique identifier, to add to her resume. The counselor prompts her to be original, sending Sierra into a mental block. Later that day, poring over a book, Sierra wonders what to do. She looks around her room for inspiration and finds her toy piano. She plays with its keys. With tutoring sessions with Veronica going smoothly, Sierra continues to see the vulnerable side of the superficially confident and popular girl at school. The house is chaotic, and eventually, Veronica storms off into another room, giving up and breaking down in tears. Sierra cautiously follows and attempts to comfort her. Veronica recovers and asks Sierra for her phone, offering to take selfies that Sierra may use to send to Jamie. Sierra is amazed at how quickly Veronica composes herself, wiping away her tears and taking a picture as if she was not crying 2 minutes ago. She smiles softly. Perhaps Veronica isn't such a bad person after all. Later that night, Sierra sends Veronica's picture to Jamie. He opens it and texts her back, asking if they can talk on call. Sierra hesitates for a minute but then says okay. A moment later, Jamie calls Sierra on her cell phone. She freaks out, running around the room, and eventually picks up. The two are shown to be doing completely random things as they talk for the first time on call, and there is an instant spark between them, which is not so evident in the text conversations. They find it easy to talk to each other and showcase a rare form of intimacy, having never met in person as of yet. After 4 hours of talking, the two call it a night, agreeing to FaceTime each other the next day. Back in school the next morning, Sierra and Dan discuss the possibility of FaceTiming Jamie. Sierra excuses herself shortly after to go to the tracks, and talk to the coach about being on the boys' track team. This might help her stand out in her CV for universities. Dan joins her shortly to give her company in the trial. The two sprints as fast as possible, missing almost all the hurdles and then throwing up on the field after the intense exertion. Sierra decides to stick to tutoring. But alas, even that is proving to be difficult, given Veronica's fragile attention span. She interrupts Sierra multiple times, asking to pluck Sierra's eyebrows. Sierra tries to get her back on the topic at hand, but to no avail. Soon Jamie FaceTimes Sierra, and the two frantically scramble to get the laptop so Veronica can talk to Jamie. Sierra is confused about how this would play out, and the two decide to make a curious arrangement. Veronica sits in front of the laptop and lip-syncs what Sierra is saying behind the laptop. Jamie catches that the audio does not sync with the video, and blames the faulty internet for this glitch. Sierra and Jamie decide to call each other later that night, and the two hang up. The conversation is a success, and Sierra and Veronica celebrate ecstatically. This event develops a bond between Sierra and Veronica. The two grow close, laughing and joking around during tutoring sessions. It is an incredible insight into the complexity of the two girls, depicting that each has a side that they don't show to the outside world. With their arrangement going smoothly, Sierra continues to build a more solid relationship with Jamie. During their call one night, Jamie asks Sierra out on a date. She is quite hesitant but agrees, knowing she cannot avoid this forever. Once they hang up, Jamie celebrates while Sierra panics. The next day, Sierra tells Veronica about the situation, pleading with her to go on a date with Jamie on Sierra's behalf. Later on, Sierra tells Dan about the situation, suddenly catching sight of Jamie in person. Dan seizes the opportunity to potentially burst the bubble that Sierra refuses to come out of, and sprints toward Jamie. Dan runs up to Jamie and feigns, dropping a catch. He introduces himself to Jamie and beckons to Sierra to come over. Sierra awkwardly joins Dan and does not say a word. Jamie introduces himself and asks to know Sierra's name. She knows that if she speaks, she will reveal herself at once. Instead, she tells Jamie her name in sign language. Dan, taking this golden opportunity, comments subtly on Sierra's questionable behaviors. As of late, Sierra rolls her eyes and pulls Dan to take leave. She exchanges a handshake with Jamie, and the two lock eyes for a moment, feeling a familiarity with each other. Sierra and Dan walk away laughing. They get in Sierra's car, and Dan notices she is still smiling. Perhaps she does not need Veronica at all. Dan reminds her that she still needs to tell Jamie the truth, and she promises that she will end it that night. On the date, Veronica and Jamie meet up, with Sierra watching them in the background. She texts Veronica to meet her in the bathroom, and tells her she is not ready to reveal her secret to Jamie. Veronica calms Sierra down in the way she knows how, and agrees that she would not get intimate with Jamie at all during the date. Both Veronica's and Jamie's friends have joined them for the movie, so the element of a date night seems to have vanished before the movie even starts. However, Jamie continues to try to make the situation comfortable by adding references from the long phone calls he supposedly had with Veronica. Sierra, seated in the row behind them, hears their conversation in silence. She scoffs as Jamie puts his arm around Veronica. A text to Sierra tells her that Jamie wants to drive Veronica home after. She disappears further into her seat. Later that night, Sierra sneaks up behind Jamie's car and listens to their awkward conversations. The spark that Jamie and Sierra had while talking about life is long gone. Veronica does not know how to answer Jamie's philosophical questions. Sierra helps her out a little by texting her what she should tell Jamie. When Jamie asks Veronica what she wants to be when she grows up, Sierra pauses, not knowing what to say. Veronica looks at the 3 typing dots on her phone and quietly murmurs that Sierra should be a singer, having listened to her voice during tutoring sessions. Jamie is confused and tries to alleviate the awkwardness by leaning in for a kiss. Veronica's eyes widen, and Sierra pulls her leg from under the car she's hiding beneath, startling Veronica further. She jumps, surprising Jamie. She instructs Jamie to close his eyes because she does not want him to see her giant pores, and signals Sierra to come out from beneath the car. Jamie's eyes are still shut, and Veronica pulls Sierra in front of him, beckoning her to kiss him. Sierra places her hand over Jamie's eyes, ensuring he does not look, and the two have an intimate moment together. Jamie marvels at how normal it feels again now that he cannot look at Veronica. Sierra runs off, narrowly escaping Jamie catching a glimpse of her, and leaving Veronica to manage the situation. Sierra cannot stop smiling. The next day, Sierra tells Dan all about the previous night. She is over the moon, and gets a little surprised when Dan does not respond back with the same enthusiasm that she was expecting. Back in tutoring sessions, Veronica plucks Sierra's eyebrows, and Sierra asks her about her mom. Veronica gets a moment to be vulnerable with Sierra, telling her about her father, who abandoned his family for a 22-year-old. He left them with the big house and all the furniture, and no way to pay for their old house. This explains why Veronica's mom is odd when it comes to the reality of aging and fading youth. Veronica brushes it off then, asking Sierra if she would like to come to a party. Sierra is surprised that Veronica is comfortable being seen in public with her, but agrees anyway. At the party, Veronica and Sierra look around, when Veronica's 2 friends join them, surprised to see the two together. They passive-aggressively ask Veronica to come outside so they may talk in private. Veronica excuses herself, telling Sierra she will be right back and leaves Sierra alone, who is whisked away to chug drinks. Outside, Veronica is confronted by her friends about the company she is keeping. She defends Sierra, admitting that Sierra is cool in a somewhat unfortunate way. Her friends remind Veronica of her own words, "Losers hang out with losers." They leave her be. Meanwhile, Sierra, struggling not to throw up from the excessive drinking, walks in on Spencer, the guy Veronica is interested in, talking to his friend. Turns out, he made Veronica insecure on purpose, making her feel that she was not smart enough for him. Sierra is shocked by this revelation, and hurries to tell Veronica. But the drinks in her system get to her head, and she falls flat on her face. In the meantime, Spencer reaches Veronica asking her to come with him to his car. Veronica is skeptical, telling him that she cannot abandon Sierra. But upon Spencer's insistence, she agrees to go with him. As she leaves with Spencer, Sierra walks out to find Veronica gone. She calls Veronica on her cell phone, but Veronica does not pick up, distracted by Spencer, who oddly takes a photo of their moment in his car. Veronica finds it odd but is too distracted to make a big deal out of it. Giving up, Sierra goes home alone. She is already hungover and flops down on her bed. She stares at her cell phone on the side table and picks it up, dropping a text to Jamie, who calls her in an instant. Sierra confesses that she really likes him. She then asks if he could like her back for her personality, and not for her outer appearance. Jamie chuckles, confused about where all this is coming from. Sierra admits that she needs to tell Jamie something, and he might hate her for it. Jamie asks if it's really bad but does not get an answer. Sierra has fallen asleep. Jamie smiles and whispers goodnight to Sierra before quietly hanging up the phone. The next morning, Sierra bears a lecture from her mother, inspired by her actions from the previous night. She is grounded for going out so late and getting drunk irresponsibly. Sierra is speechless and heads to school in a bad mood. During English class, she texts Jamie, who oddly hasn't texted her yet. A call from the teacher to present her poetry distracts Sierra, who claims she forgot hers at home. The teacher is disappointed, but Sierra couldn't care less. In the hallway, she frantically explains to Dan about her conversation with Jamie the previous night, when Veronica runs up to her, pulling her in a hug and sobbing. Sierra is confused and asks what happened. Veronica tearfully informs her that Spencer has broken up with her. Dan stares wide-eyed as Veronica and Sierra walk to the bathroom to talk it out. In the bathroom, Veronica reflects on how this would never have happened if she had dated someone like Jamie. She gushes on about the good things about Jamie, and Sierra defensively asks if Veronica likes him, only to receive a very unconvincing denial. Later that day, Sierra calls Jamie to clear things up regarding their call the previous night. She tells him that she wants to talk to him face to face, to tell him what she wanted to tell him earlier, and they agree to meet later that night. Sierra hangs up, a look of nervousness appears on her face. The much-anticipated game is here. Jamie gets off the bus and catches sight of Veronica headed to the field with the other cheerleaders. He calls her over, and the two exchange nervous hellos. Meanwhile, Sierra fidgets in her band uniform, squeezing her instrument out of nerves in the band room. This is it. The truth must come out. She walks out to head to the field, and to her shock, sees Jamie and Veronica being intimate. Jamie seems to have caught Veronica off guard, and she does not stop him in time. Cradling her broken heart, Sierra storms off, getting in her car. Meanwhile, Veronica pushes Jamie off, demanding to know why he did that. Jamie is confused and gets no clarification, and Veronica hurries off. Sierra, on the other hand, does not see her push Jamie away. She is furious and impulsively logs into Veronica's Instagram account. She is not surprised when she uses Spencer's name as Veronica's password, smirking at Veronica's questionable intelligence. As the game kicks off, Veronica leads the cheerleader squad, and suddenly catches a glimpse of Sierra walking to the bandstand, with a smug look on her face. Sierra does not respond when Veronica calls out to her during her performance, and sits in her seat with the other band members in the audience. Even Dan is not speaking to her. Sierra asks a band member sitting next to her to yell out Jamie's name. She is still pretending to be deaf, and signs good luck to Jamie when he looks over to her stand. Veronica is still confused but continues with her performance. Meanwhile, people in the audience get notifications on their cell phones as the game kicks off. Sierra had posted the picture that Spencer took with Veronica in his car, with the caption dumped over DM. A student displays the picture on the field screen, and Veronica is completely humiliated. Jamie sees the picture on the screen, shocked and speechless. A player from the opponent team knocks him down, resulting in Jamie getting injured. Sierra realizes the horrible thing she has done, and quickly walks out of the stands. Veronica catches sight of her and, with evident anger on her face, follows Sierra. Sierra runs onto the field to get to Jamie, who is still disoriented from the fall. Veronica reaches at the same time and is confronted by Jamie, who asks if she is cheating on him with Spencer. Veronica denies it and tells him that Sierra had been catfishing him the entire time, pretending to be her. Sierra pleads with Jamie to let her explain. Jamie recognizes her voice and understands the situation. He walks away with the medic, telling both the girls to stay away from him. With Jamie gone, Veronica demands to know why Sierra did what she did. Sierra confesses that she saw Veronica and Jamie sharing a kiss, and it hurt her. Veronica breaks the illusion of the perfect life that Sierra thinks she has, telling her that she has no idea what it's like to look like Veronica. Veronica coldly tells Sierra that her looks are the least ugly thing about her, and walks away, leaving Sierra with a bruised ego and a broken heart. Completely shattered from the day's events, Sierra comes home sobbing, and slams the door behind her. Her parents sitting in the living room ask her what happened, and Sierra lashes out at them. She tells them that they have no idea what it's like to be a teenage girl, and look the way Sierra does. Her parents are rendered speechless by what she is saying, as she runs up to her room, slams her door, and collapses on her bed, crying uncontrollably. She stares at the ceiling of her room, breathing deeply. Her piano lies across the room, and once she is a little calmer, Sierra sits by it and fiddles with the keys, playing a tune. Cut to the next scene back in biology class. Sierra sits alone. She sees Veronica with her back to her, also sitting by herself, and Dan in the row behind her, completely disregarding her, looking at him. In English class, Sierra is not her usual self. She sits distracted as the bell rings. When the class empties, she stays back to give an explanation about the assignment she turned in. The teacher is disgruntled that she turned in the assignment late, and in the form of a song instead of a poem. But it was raw and emotional, and Sierra should tell the person she wrote the song for about her true feelings. Sierra is grateful for the incredible feedback, and holding back her emotions, tells the teacher that she will. Sierra resorts to fixing the mess she has made with the people that she cares about. She comes to her dad for help with her new inspiration, music. The next day at school, she locates Dan in the garden and sits next to him. She apologizes to him for her behavior and her actions. Dan forgives her, making a little humor out of the situation. He refuses her offer to go to homecoming with him though, but asks her to save him a dance. The two bump fists and look ahead to see Veronica being bothered by random guys. On account of the humiliating incident on game night, Sierra decides to record the song she wrote for her English assignment, and sends the recording to Veronica, who had inspired her to pursue music as her selling point for a good college CV. She deletes Jamie's number from her cell phone, accepting once and for all that she has done. She plays the song for her dad as well, who is blown away by her beautiful voice and talent. He narrates a quote from George Eliot, and then counsels her to realize that she is so talented in so many things. Sierra then admits for the first time to her dad that she is terrified of growing in the shadow of two perfect human beings. Her father is an accomplished writer, her mother is successful and beautiful, and Sierra has no idea who she herself is. She does not know how to top that. Her father tells her not to worry about any of that. She has been pretty good at finding her own way so far. He gives her a hug, and Sierra feels better. Veronica, on the other hand, also does her part to fix her mistakes. She confronts her mom about always being so defensive about the world, and tells her that she and her siblings need their mom back. She also pays a visit to Jamie in an attempt to resolve matters. Meanwhile, Sierra, back at home, is having dinner with her parents before leaving for homecoming. She fiddles with her food, catching the attention of her father, who inquires cautiously if she should be leaving or not. Sierra tells him that is the beauty of going stag. Nobody is waiting on her. As her parents clear up the table, Sierra receives a message from an unknown number. She inquires who it is and receives a text asking her to go to her window. She walks over to it and sees Jamie waiting outside in his car. Sierra is surprised and walks out, cautiously greeting Jamie. He tells her that Veronica came over to talk to him and played him Sierra's song. She also had several arguments in Sierra's favor, but Jamie also admits that what Sierra did was not right. However, perhaps he would not have noticed her if Sierra did not approach the situation with him the way she did. Jamie admits that he has feelings for Sierra and confirms that she is exactly his type. He pulls out a sunflower and presents it to her in honor of her song, and the two share a sweet, intimate moment together before heading to homecoming. At the event, Sierra and Jamie walk arm in arm. When she catches sight of Dan with his date, he waves to them excitedly and points to his date, as if in disbelief. Sierra also locks eyes with Veronica, who is standing with her group of friends. The two exchange smiles, and Veronica walks over laughing and gives Sierra a hug. Dan also joins in, and the three embrace each other, symbolizing friendship despite all odds. Toward the end, we see where the four characters have reached in accordance with their previous goals and aspirations. Sierra manages to get straight A's and successfully gets admission at Stanford. She and Jamie manage to make their relationship work long distance, having good experience over the phone. Jamie gets a football scholarship at UCLA and teaches sign language in his spare time, while Veronica seems to have quit social media and aims to be a philosopher queen. Dan, on the other hand, seems to have successfully argued his way to an all-girls college, and yet is still the slowest member on the track team. If you enjoyed the video, then please let us know in the comments about your favorite part of this movie recap.